This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome into the Triple Option, Paul Catalina and Steven Simcox. Our Wednesday wonderkind. Back on Wednesday. Back on Wednesday for the first time in like 3 Wednesdays.
Can't keep me down.
No. Can't.
Me and Wednesday always find each other again.
Yeah. You know, I learned this from P. Diddy. No. Ain't nobody can take my pride. Ain't nobody gonna hold me down. Oh, no. Until you get arrested. For various crimes.
Yeah, saying I learned this from P. Diddy is a very different sentence now than it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Always kind of wondered about that guy.
Well, we found some stuff out that's not super flattering.
No, not at all. Not at all. You know, like, people are really focusing on the baby oil thing and not the, like, why. A little bit too much to me.
Sometimes we bury the lead a little bit. We just kind of miss the big picture.
Yeah. Like, he had 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Like, why? Let's get into that. But not a great way to open the show, but just still.
That's where we are now.
But food for thought.
Food for thought, for sure.
Food for thought. Steven, you have been spending quite a bit of time on your podcast, Locked on Horned Frogs, discussing the tenuous natures all of a sudden of Sonny Dykes' job.
Yes, I have.
And so, outside looking in, what most people will see is he came into a situation. It's very similar to Wade Phillips taking over to Bill Parcells for me, where I think Bill Parcells and the Cowboys had reached their end. That's how Bill Parcells is. And the team was maybe a little bit stressed out from his style. And then the year after, they had this great regular season. Wade Phillips' style really is what they needed in the short term, but long term it wasn't great. And Sonny comes in, takes over, national championship game, 65-7, and then, you know, the players that were mostly brought in by Gary Patterson are gone. And then he's now building a team in this new era of college football where I feel like he's got the support he needs NIL-wise and all that financially. I've never heard anybody say, like, as much as I've heard other schools go, we just can't keep up. I've never really heard that from TCU. I've heard reasonable expectations, like, yes, we feel like we can keep reasonable pace, but, like, they're not going to say, like, we're going to outspend Georgia. Like,
sure.
You know, they know they can't do that. But I've never heard those complaints. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, I think they've struggled like everybody has with building an O-line through the portal, but that might just be a fool's errand in general. That's a fair assessment. I think that's a really good recap of kind of where they're at. I do think he deserves a ton of credit for what he did in 2022. He won a playoff game, which I thought would buy you a lot more time at TCU. But I think what we're seeing now, a lot of the concerns I had when Sonny got the job, historically his team's very offensive-centric. Defense was secondary. They weren't really known for being physical. And even at SMU, which I think he did a really good job at SMU. June Jones had started to turn things around a little bit, and Chad Morris had run with that too. But Sonny got them to a place where they were winning 8 or 9 games consistently. But his teams would kind of falter in November and December. And when he got here, I just thought, I'm not sure if he's a guy that can really raise the ceiling to a place where you're competing for conference titles. But then year one happened, and I said, well, maybe I just totally got this guy wrong. He's just in a place now where he has resources. And now it feels like we're regressing back to more of what I thought about him, which was, you know, you got some explosive skill players. You're not very good on the offensive defensive line. You're not physical enough. The defense is an issue. And so in my mind, I'm like, I would love to give him more time. But the problem is, Paul, you know this. There's times where you watch a team and you're like, this is a well-coached football team. They just need better players.
Yeah.
Like, they have all the nuts and bolts. They're disciplined. They're prepared. They're not turning the ball over a lot. They're not hurting themselves a lot. And it's just like there's a talent deficiency. This coach either needs to get more talented players or get the right types of guys for what he wants to do. This TCU team right now, they don't check any of those boxes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, at least against other Big 12 teams, it's not a talent issue. It's just they're killing themselves every week.
Yeah.
And you can't lose games to Houston at home and expect to get more time to really play this out. Like, we're in year 3. Even if you want to say, well, maybe it's year 2 because year 1 was under Gary's players, still, we're past the point where that should be happening. And the inexcusable home loss has been a consistent theme. I want him to figure it out because I think he's a good dude. I feel like he hadn't forgotten how to coach, but he's 8-10 in his last 18 games. And I think the other thing that works against him, there's a few boosters, maybe more than a few, but I know a few for sure, that were not totally on board with letting go of the Gary era. It just sort of became obvious that it needed to be done.
Yeah.
But there's still this is not their guy, right? Like, they don't have any loyalty to this dude.
Yeah.
He's the new face that was following.
He also didn't follow it up.
Yes.
So he hasn't followed it up yet. So now he doesn't have you made the right decision.
Right.
Like that doubt's going to be there. So outside looking in, that's what it looks like to me. It's like, that like they had this, but since it's Gary's players, that there's no more Max Duggan, there's no more Quentin Johnston, there's no more Travius Hodges-Tomlinson. Like, all those guys are gone, right? They're all gone. Like, that was a great collection of talent that had maybe been worn thin by Gary's personality.
Demands, yeah.
I mean, like, and Gary very obviously, like, was kind of Coach QAnon a little bit, where it was like, oh, they're against us. They're doing this. He was always a little bit that way. But as the team got worse, so did that. Mm-hmm. So, like, we've got to take Grandpa's cable away.
It was that. And then it was also just the constant, like, all these changes that were happening in college sports, and he would get asked about them. And he just never sounded like he was on board with it. I mean, it was just more and more like, oh, this is just a cranky guy who doesn't. Yeah. Who's not getting on brand with what's happening.
And like, if you're a cranky guy who gets results, then people will put up with it.
Of course, yeah.
But the minute that you don't, and then you start blaming everything but yourself, you're done. And that's what happened to Gary. He wasn't taking responsibility for it either. It was always like, this is the reason that this happened. It wasn't me. SMU's trying to kill our coach. Yeah. Like, all these different things. It was a plot. And you're like, well, they weren't even over there. Like, like, okay. I mean, like, we've all watched the video. I don't care what the video says. It's AI.
Well, it's such a polar opposite now, too, because the press conference after the Houston game, I mean, Sonny just seemed genuinely confused. Like, he was kind of like, we had a good week of practice. I don't know why it's not translating to the field. I feel like we're taking the steps to get here. Gary was always like, and he was taking responsibility. Gary was always like, well, I know what to do. It's just that none of these other people are willing to do it. Like, I'm telling them what to do. I'm telling them what's worked for the past 20 years, but they're not carrying it out. So it's just a very different dynamic now. But again, it comes back to, I mean, you know this, Paul, personalities. It's all about winning or losing. Yeah. The minute that you lose, all of a sudden, all those things about the personality that people used to love, it's like, now that's a big problem.
Well, look, Baylor fans hate that Dave Aranda's a nice guy. Like, all of a sudden they hate he's a nice guy. Like, they hate that he's calm. They hate that he's not, like, they want to see fire. They want to see him yelling. They want to see him do this stuff. And, like, I just think you need to have somebody who's genuine.
Yes.
Like, they're genuinely themselves and a productive influence on the people around them. Right. Now, if that gets through yelling a little bit, look, we had Willie Fritz on yesterday. Happiest coach you're ever going to meet. And you're like, honestly, one of the guys who's the most normal, least football coaches like you're going to meet. And he was a little raspy, and he was like, yeah, well, they didn't have my megaphone today at practice, so I had to yell a lot. And you're like, oh yeah. And it's not like, you watch Willie Fritz, he's not prone to like tirades, you know, but yeah, I mean, like, he knows what buttons to push when. Like, okay, this is my we got to be serious thing. This is let's connect kind of a voice. He's got all that about him. And I think Sonny might struggle with that a little bit because he's a guy who goes from 0 to 60. Like, you just see it. Like, there's no, like, everything's fine. Bad call.
I'm all over the ref.
I'm right here, as opposed to, like, I like the way that Saban used to do it with the refs. Like, he would go to about 25 and be like, why? He's sternly disappointed with that call. Mm-hmm. Do it again. Like, what I tell you, a third time, then he's at full speed, losing his mind. Like, that's where he lived here. Sonny right now, and part of it I think is they've been losing, is that now he just goes 0 to 60 because, like, the governor's off and he can't manage it.
And right or wrong, it's also tough when you're only seen berating the officials because it looks like you're not holding that same accountability for everybody else, which I get. Like, he's just, as you said, you have to be authentic. I think if he went in there tomorrow and just started ripping everybody, then the guys would be like, okay. Like, they would just sort of roll their eyes because that's not who he is. But it's who is in those moments. And so you have to have that same kind of steady presence with everyone. And I feel like he doesn't have that at the moment. He doesn't really know how to do that with the players and hold them accountable. And he's openly admitted a few years ago, like, they had veterans who just kind of police themselves. Like, they had guys in the locker room that were like, we want to win, we want to be accountable. And they took ownership of it. And then I feel like when you win, it's a lot easier to do that too. When you're losing, player leadership obviously is not as good because it's hard to get people to buy in and be the bad guy when you're not getting the results you want.
Yeah. So there's talk around Sonny Dykes' job. I mean, like, there is. I don't know how justifiable it is right now. Like, if you take the 30,000-foot view of it, but I can see why. Because this is the second year in a row, and they started off well enough to where you're like, okay, looks like they've got something back, and then something's been exposed, right? Yeah. And that they can't run the ball in a Briles offense, to me, is mind-boggling because that's never been a problem in that offense. No. Ever. I know that people think it's a lot of passing, but really it's way more running the ball and spreading people out. But the fact that they can't do that, they knew they were going to have defensive problems, but it doesn't look improved at all. They were not ready for Zion Chris last week, which can't say I blame them, but, like, even still,
can't give up 30 points to a team that hasn't scored in 2 weeks. I mean,
that's like, those are the things. Like, they found their sea legs, real fast, and then TCU has a confidence problem, and maybe they have a culture problem. Like, you hear these stories, Koskazati kicking old players off the sidelines, like, whether he's justified in that or not, like, not a good look. And then those create fissures within the program. And then those people, like, all of that's the stuff that eventually gets you undone. I don't think they should right away. I think they need to give him the benefit of the doubt for a little while, but he might have to make he's already made one coordinator change. And I would not be surprised to see them maybe make some other staff changes as well.
That's the tricky thing is you've already pulled the plug on the DC once. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can, but it would be pretty shocking to, again, can your defensive coordinator after one season. And I think he likes Kendall for better or worse. I mean, he feels like that offense can be productive and wants to stay the course there. So maybe they move some position coaches around. The other tough thing is this was supposed to be the manageable part of the schedule. I mean, they get the bye week right now, but then they get Utah, Tech. Yeah. They got games against Oklahoma State and Arizona. Oh, Oklahoma State's, they are, but Arizona, Oklahoma State.
Well, Oklahoma State and TCU are the Spider-Man meme right now.
Yeah, they are. They're just kind of standing there pointing at each other.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if you're better and improved, if that doesn't translate to winning some more games, then it's going to be a tough sell because the sell is going to be continuity, right? Like, just give me another year where I have this coaching staff together, I have a lot of these players together, and we'll take a jump. But that's going to be year 4. So it's just the clock's kind of ticking on figuring this thing out. But I think you're right. I don't think they're going to make any immediate moves. I would say these next 2 games are pretty critical, though. I don't think anybody expects them to go beat Utah and Salt Lake, but you better be competitive, and then you better have a good effort against Tech at home, or things could get real hairy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but they do. They have to find a way to run the ball. I mean, they've got to do that. And, because Josh Hoover's not going to have it every day.
Right.
He turns the ball over a lot. I think part of the reason he turns the ball over so much is, like, now well, we can't run it. It's 2nd and 9, so that means more passes, and more passes means more opportunities to turn the ball over from the quarterback.
Right, and credit to Willie Fritz. I mean, Houston was begging them to run the ball. Like they were rushing 3 or 4 guys pretty much all game long and saying, "Hey, you can have these yards." But TCU refused to do it, and then they fell behind early, and then it became a game where now, we have to pass because we got to get back in this ball game. And so, even in a ball game where it was set up for them to get Cam Cook kind of going and get him some confidence, they couldn't find a way to get enough push to do it, or at least stick with the run long enough to get him going.
Yeah, absolutely. So, they've that surprises me that they're in this spot.
Me too, buddy.
I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, it just surprised me. I thought that they would be better.
Yeah.
Sonny very openly said they had culture problems last year. That they started a month later. They weren't it was the first time any of that staff, any of them had to deal with anything like that. So they didn't know the functionality of it, right? Like they didn't understand this is how there's a reason that the teams that always are in the playoff or always playing late bowl games turn around and okay, well, here's the schedule. Well, they were we start spring football on this day. And well, that's only 3 weeks off. All these other teams are taking this much time off. And he kind of admitted I should have just called Nick Saban and been hey, when should I have spring practice? And he'll be you guys, March 10th, yeah. That's what he should have done. But they were a month behind. They always felt like they were a month behind, and they never got it back. You can't get time back.
You can't get that time back.
And then he said they had culture problems, and that was something he had to weed out.
Well, and the other problem is, and a lot of coaches are like this now. So this is not an indictment on him, but if you're CEO guy, right? He's not calling plays on offense anymore. He's offloaded the defense as he has his whole career to the DC. So if your whole thing is vibes and effort and preparedness and all that is bad, then
yeah,
it's kind of like Tim Robinson wearing the hot dog suit saying,
yeah,
we're all looking for who did this. So
yeah,
you're suspect number one,
yeah,
for better or worse.
Yeah, yeah. How many people do you think on that particular meme have shared that meme but never watched the
sketch,
the actual sketch?
Oh, I would say 70%.
Yeah, that's just brilliant.
It's a great show in general. Yeah, but that's one of the best.
Yes. Baby of the Year is my favorite.
That's a good one.
That's my absolute favorite. That one and Shirt Brother.
One I like that one. I like the one where he's in court and they're reading the text messages from his coworkers about his hat. He's wearing the hat. He's wearing this ridiculous hat in court, and they're at this trial. They're reading all these text messages, and the majority of them are about how ridiculous his hat is.
The drive-in crooner is another one of my
he's a good one.
My favorite ones. And if you've never seen it, I think you should leave. You should
watch it.
You should watch it. But it's not one episode's not going to take you that much time.
No, it's an easy watch.
Yeah, sometimes they're only 18 minutes long. Mm-hmm. But it's
time well spent.
Yeah, it very much is. So Stephen, what do you think if say they don't make a bowl game for a second year in a row, is that they hit that 7th loss, whenever that might be? They hit that 7th loss. Is he done?
I think so. Yeah, and I wouldn't have expected that before the year, but I guess part of it depends on too, how you're losing those ball games. But just in a vacuum. I feel like Big 12 there's a lot of Big 12 fans that have said, man, these schedules now are so manageable. And I think that's a little overblown because there's a lot of coin flip games in there. Mm-hmm. But there's, with this roster constructed how it is, there's no reason you can't win 6 games.
Yeah.
Even now, I think there's a way they get 3 more wins.
Yeah.
I don't think it's impossible by any means, but I feel like if they miss another bowl game, then, he's out. And then you're starting from the trouble is then you're starting from scratch again. You're really kind of blowing this whole thing up again.
Well, look, I don't think it's looking good for Dave Aranda in this moment. Mm-hmm. And I mostly don't think it is because I don't think that you can sell it back to the fans. I don't think Mack Rhodes will be able to sell that back to the fans of like,
Right.
no. You saw things like things were better, and they are better.
It's just not translating to
but
wins.
It's not translated to wins right now. So let's get some of those.
Whoever G.J. Kinney's agent is right now is just waiting by the phone.
And Jeff Traylor.
Yeah, they're ready to start a bidding war, man.
Yeah. So I would think it would be wild if TCU and Baylor were open at the same time.
That would be crazy. They're this like
it would.
People would hate to hear this. They're very similar. I mean, like it's the same job basically.
It's the same job. Like the only advantage that TCU even remotely has is location.
Yeah.
Like
which in the NIL era, like how like it matters, but it doesn't matter like it did.
No.
10 years ago.
Like it's that's it. And look, there's been times where it hasn't mattered at all, right? So, yeah, it is the same. Like the fan bases are similarly as like they have the same level of enthusiasm. Like they've tasted a little bit of the big time, like just a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's made them think that that's how it should be all the time, even though that's not
how things work.
That's not how it is.
And there's also like the idea of both are still in the grand scheme of things relatively smaller schools. So if things are bad, like they can't survive any sort of apathy. There's a lot of bigger schools that, okay, maybe some people check out, but there's other people to fill in those seats.
Yeah.
There's nobody to backfill if things are going awry.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the thing because, yeah, you're right. The fan bases are small, so it's very similar. So that they could potentially both be open at the same time would be crazy.
It would be crazy.
It would be crazy.
And it would be, I mean, I think Mack Rhodes and Jeremiah Donati are both very good at what they do. Mm-hmm. So there'd be a lot of dealing behind the scenes going on. Because, I mean, they'd be looking at the same candidates, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, it's not like one of them's going to get Saban out of retirement or something like that. You know, like, yeah. You know, I do think, though, that, like, there's going to be – John Gruden's out there and wants to coach college football. So I promise you that if this job's open, like any job that's open, he's going to be like, I'll do it.
I would love that.
Hire me.
I don't know if it'd be good, but it'd be entertaining.
I hope he does. Have you seen his TikToks?
I saw one yesterday where he looked like he was on coke.
Yeah.
He was talking about Jared Goff completing a bunch of passes in a row.
Yeah,
and his eyes and his rubbing his nose. I was like, what is going on?
He's got this like this. He's trying to do Chucky. Like he's trying to be, because he's got the Chucky shirt on. I think that's the bit.
Well, and I didn't know where he was. The camera shot was just like his face. It looked like a hostage video.
Yeah.
It looked like somebody
in a dark room.
Yes.
He's in a dark room with his laptop.
Right.
Like, I mean, there's only a couple things you're going to be doing in a dark room with your laptop. and the way he was doing this really made me not want to watch that TikTok again.
I know. It looked like Al Michaels heard about TikTok and kidnapped him and was like, hey, can you do some funny stuff in here?
Yeah. Well, you can come out. You can come out when you hit 100,000 views.
I'm going to put you in a room.
Yeah.
And you just yell at people.
Yeah. Talk about Jared Goff going 18 for 18. Yeah. But, yeah, I think it'd be interesting because here's the other thing. It's John Gruden's going to say, hey, you know, he's already said, I want to coach a college team next year. So every fan base that has a job opening.
He's like, hey, John Gruden.
I'll tell you, there's going to be a segment of Florida fans who were also Tampa Bay Bucks fans who don't understand how the passage of time works. That will be like, hey, why don't we just get John Gruden?
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
Yeah.
I need these private school jobs open now. I need John Gruden at a prayer breakfast sometime. Just
Dear God.
Yelling at people.
Thanks for the food. And protect our young men.
Bless Spider 2, why banana when we call it.
When we come back, there's some new rule changes in college football when it comes to the transfer portal and recruiting. We'll talk about those. And then the wheel. After that, this is 365 Sports.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Steven Simcox alongside. And Steven, the national letter of intent is no more.
Saw this, yes.
Yes. So because the rules have been changing, it will now be replaced with a financial aid agreement and a revenue sharing contract. That is the plan moving forward for when revenue sharing gets approved, which will be in April. So the national letter of intent, go bye-bye.
Pretty wild. I mean, I guess it might not change things as much as people think, because what we learned in the past few years is, I mean, they mattered, but they didn't. Like, people would just ask out of them, and the school kind of had to grant that unless they wanted a PR mess on their hands. But just another example of how we're barreling towards essentially professional football. And I think it's going to be good for schools in a lot of ways, because it'll get more regulation in place. It'll have things more above board. But there's also just going to be a ton of adjustments for fans, and it makes recruiting even more kind of wishy-washy in some ways. But, you know, I mean, Paul, you've been doing this long enough. Like, commitments, all these things, they don't really mean, like, it doesn't mean anything until somebody's on campus, essentially.
I wonder how long before they, with revenue sharing and everything, turn it over to, you know, like a general manager, recruiter type person, and the head coach is going to be involved in that. And then the position coaches may be less involved until you, like, thin the herd a little bit. Because I think recruiting is what is making it harder. They need to find a way to simplify it. Mm-hmm. And I thought that, like, college football coach and NFL coach were, like, the same kind of difficult, like, were the same level of difficult.
Just different.
But just different
challenges.
Different challenges. I do not believe that as it currently stands. Like, I think an NFL job is remarkably easier than a college job right now, because
it definitely is.
If you're the wide receivers coach of the Lions, like, you have scouts that go out and tell you things, and then you watch things and you say, hey, I like this kid from Minnesota. Can you, like, let me know about him? But you don't have to go to the kid from Minnesota at all. Like, you don't have to go and try to convince him to be a Lion. You don't have to do that. When you have free agents, you don't really do that either, unless you have a pre-existing relationship with a guy. You're the offensive coordinator, and he played for you in Denver, and now you're in Atlanta, and you're like, hey, I bet he knows the system. We should go and get him. We have a good relationship. And you might be like, you know, call him up. Hey, Steven, you want to come to Atlanta? Yeah, well, you know, have your agent set up a visit. Like, that's all you have to do. You don't have to, like, go and meet his parents and, you know, go talk to the coach and, you know, do all these things. Like, the general manager will take care of taking him to a, you know, $500 a plate steakhouse and all those things. And
you're not recruiting players on your own roster constantly.
No.
I mean, if everybody has contracts, as you said, there's free agents, but a lot of times you kind of know the deal going into a contract year. Like, hey, I got this guy. Yeah. He's probably going to be really motivated. There's a chance we lose him in the offseason. And if there's a holdout or something like that, front office takes care of it. Front office and the agent take care of it. And you just know, well, 9 times out of 10, these things get resolved, and he'll probably be there by the time games roll around, right? So it's a really difficult job, and it makes things immensely tougher. And I remember, it's funny that you mentioned general managers. I remember when we were working together, we had Austin Thomas on the show one time, and he was like I think at that time he was the GM at Baylor.
Yeah.
And we talked to him, and we hung up and everything. And I remember thinking to myself, this dude's just stealing money. Like, he just made up it sounded like he just made up a job.
Yeah.
Because at that time it was still very new, and nobody really knew, like, what they were supposed to do. His description of it was kind of like, well, basically whatever the head coach doesn't want to deal with, I kind of handle that. But now, it's a hugely important part of the gig, because there's so much scouting and player retention and everything that goes into this that's outside of it's in the coach's purview, but it's outside his ability to handle it all.
Honestly, like, if I were like, I would have your football coaches and your recruiters, and then have the recruiters go recruit. they're going to have relationships, and then make sure that those position coaches are good, like
Are communicating.
and all that stuff. Have them have relationships, but I would have the football coaches focus on the football because, it's also really a lot easier to tell to me in the NFL when you have a position that's like constantly bad for 5 years in a row, where you're like, well, I mean, if like sometimes you have a position that's constantly bad in college, and you're like, well, we're not losing this guy as a recruiter. We'll just deal with the fact that we're really good, but our safeties never seem to like make plays, right? But he's the reason we have this quarterback, and he's the reason we have this great offensive line. He's just not so good. Or we'll move him somewhere. We'll just bend him over into a different role.
Suddenly he's the running backs coach.
Yeah, like he's going to be here, so it's not like such a big deal. But when it comes to like the NFL, if your safeties are bad for 5 years in a row, it's on two people. It's the general manager and it's the safeties coach. Yeah. And we probably need a better position coach who can help the general manager identify the talent a little bit better. And when we get these guys in here, like make them good.
I can see a world where that happens. I mean, typically you have like 2 or 3 guys and maybe a couple more that are their job's recruiting. But I think that's going to become more specialized. I guess the only tricky part of it is a lot of times that's like a get your foot in the door type of gig.
Yeah.
And those coaches are hoping like, okay, if I do good at this, maybe they'll let me coach the corners in 2 years. And now it's like such an important aspect of it that you could make a living just doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, like Rashad Samples, I think he knows ball too, but he's bounced around all over the nation the last few years because he's just known as he's got great relationships. His dad coached at Duncanville. Like he's just a recruiting guy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like I think that's going to change a lot. The other change is the spring portal's still here, but the windows are tighter, which I think makes it easier on everybody. I'm all for player rights and advocacy and all that stuff, but also like let's make a decision. Like let's not draw this stuff out.
There have to be some rules.
Yeah, there have to be like make a decision. Like don't. Yeah.
If you're in the portal,
I don't want it. Like I just need to hear like part of Beethoven's Fifth, not the whole thing. I just need a measure, not the whole symphony.
I mean, also if you're in the portal and you're in demand, like you should have 3 or 4 schools in mind. It shouldn't be like, here's my top 20 or whatever. I mean, like you should know.
Yeah.
This is where I think I would fit.
Yeah.
And maybe you have more in mind, but based on who reaches out to you, you narrow it down. Like it should be a pretty quick decision.
Yeah.
Especially with all the tampering happening.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think most of Riley Leonard, they have the do not contact, thing. Riley Leonard had a do not contact because
he knew he
was going to go to Notre Dame.
Right.
Like that's where he wanted to go. And, obviously like he put his thing in the portal, put his name do not contact, and you can change that. It's not like you can't. So like if he had called Notre Dame, they're like, nah, we don't want you. He'd be like, no, seriously, contact me. I've made a huge mistake.
I've made a huge mistake, yeah.
I've made a huge mistake.
Just kidding, guys. I was playing hard to get. I read one of those dating books.
Yeah.
And I heard this was the way to go.
Yeah. They didn't call, so
apparently this is not. Steve Harvey led me astray again.
Yeah. I like the one thing I would love to see about the portal is let's get it right. Let's get it, let's make sure that, we have a system that works. So, yeah, I can hear you guys, by the way.
Yeah, the portal's a tricky thing. I mean, I think I don't know. Do you feel like it's helped the popularity of the sport?
Yes, I do. Because I think it's made people like it's created interest in the off season where college football used to have an off season.
Yes,
the NFL doesn't have a real off season.
Not anymore. No.
And so like the NFL schedules it out though. Like there's this scheduled out. So you have the playoffs. When the playoffs are over, you have the combine. When the combine is over, you have free agency. When free agency is over, you have the draft. When the draft is over, you have mini camps. When mini camps are over, you have regular camp. And then when regular camp's over, the season starts.
That's the season, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like this all big cycle. If college football wants to like make a good work-life balance, they need to figure those things out. And they like the biggest problem is them admitting that this is what they are now. Like when you're going to be sharing millions of dollars of revenue with athletes, like, yes, they are student athletes, but they're also professionals now, just at a different level of it.
Right.
You know, and Jack and I talked at length yesterday on the show about, you know, how, you know, European soccer works and there's levels. Like, this is the championship league. It's not the NFL. Like, it's really good, or maybe it's League One or whatever, but like, this is League One, and then they're going to go eventually, like, you're going to be, you know, developed and you're going to go up to the top level, but it's not pretend like there's only one way to be a professional athlete, because there's things all over the world that dictate that that's not true.
They're not studying all the time, Paul?
Look, the minute I remember when I heard Johnny Manziel and like they justified it, like, look, he's too famous to go to class. You're like, all right, look, the thing is like, that's a first day type thing, like first week type thing. But when I'm in my meteorology class and it's the 30th time and Johnny Manziel's in there, I'm not going to care.
I'm not still passing out. Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, oh my God, he's here. Yeah. So like the all online classes thing, like that kind of ended that for me for certain guys. Now look, there are most student athletes still are trying to get their degree because they know they're not going to be professional athletes, or at least they know there's a really good chance they're not going to be for very long, you know.
But it's more and more difficult. Like, you have to really go after it yourself and push for it, because with the time demands, like, it's just really tough to balance it all. And people are not going to be encouraging you to, like, hey, you want to go pre-med? Like, nobody's saying that. They're saying, hey, here's the easiest things you can do to maintain eligibility, still play. So it's a tough dynamic. It's also funny, Paul, every time the NCAA kind of jumps in with some new regulations, because you're just like, oh, yeah, you guys still exist.
Yeah. Oh, no, we did something. We're still here.
Y'all are still in charge. That's right.
Yeah.
People have told me that.
For now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ross Dellinger had an article yesterday about Super League, and the NCAA is like, hey, here's some new rules we got.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. You guys are sweet. Thanks. Yeah, no, that...
Glad you guys had a meeting.
Yeah.
Solid.
Do you think that, like, occasionally somebody, like, just comes by the NCAA offices and is like, how much you want for this building? Like, what do you mean? Like, you guys don't... Do you need these offices anymore?
Come on, guys.
Haven't you, you know...
You could work remote for the next 6 months.
Yeah, like, why don't you cut me a deal? What do you want here?
You can put together a soccer tournament matrix from your house.
Yeah, we don't need this. I've got a WeWork that wants to come in here.
Big time startup. Want a lot of open rooms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I've seen a lot of kind of the letter of intent thing specifically. I've seen a lot of kind of gnashing of teeth today. But do you think this changes a whole lot?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because that was my first thought. I just saw people be like, well, here we go. This is another example. And I'm like, well, I mean, we're kind of already there, guys.
Hay's out of the barn, man. Like, you know, I think a lot of people are just, they don't want to let go of the past.
I get it.
You know, so, I mean, it's why we had 3 Star Wars sequels that, you know, really just kind of stayed stuck in one spot. So
I still have radios in our cars.
It's what, listen, I'll tell you, if you're a big AM radio fan, just like start adjusting.
I saw people were calling. I was listening the other day, and people were saying, hey, you need to text your congressman because it's happening.
Yeah, well, it's not like, you know, the congressman are going to say, it's like, oh, yeah, Verizon has more money than you, so.
All fiddlesticks.
So there you go. Like, it's going away. The more cell phone towers and the more wireless that we do, you know, they're just going to give away those frequencies. So
R.I.P.
Yeah. FM radio also, like, not so much in danger, but
it's on the way. Yeah.
It's on the way. Like, it's all going to be digital eventually and satellite based and all that stuff. And those towers will be replaced with wireless antenna. So that's where it's going to go. So if you like the old school radio,
good luck.
Yeah. Hey Boomer or whatever it is, like okay Boomer.
Okay
yeah,
Boomer, that's what it is.
Wow, I even messed up that. Okay Boomer.
Hey Boomer. Paul thought it was something about the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah. Listen, these darn kids and their darn radios. their bag phones and
Yeah,
whatnot.
they're taking our radios away.
That's right. When we come back, the wheel. And what's our wheel topic today?
We are ranking mascots in a fight.
In a fight. Okay.
Best mascots in a fight.
Okay. We're going to do this. This is the Mike Leach wheel.
Yes.
This is the Mike Leach wheel. And so Steven has got, is it 12 spots we have on the wheel?
I've got 10 because the red marker didn't write well on the red spaces.
Okay. So we've got 10 animals, the top 10 animals in a fight
yes.
on the wheel. Okay. That's coming up next. This is 365 Sports.
Fantasy Sports EVO, the next evolution of daily fantasy sports. Tired of traditional fantasy sports where you spend hours upon hours studying individual players? EVO's unique team-based platform makes it easier than ever for all sports fans to play. No need to know individual players. Just choose your contest, select your teams, and enjoy the game. Whether you access our website from a desktop, mobile device, or the app, the experience is the same. EVO is for all sports fans. Join Fantasy Sports EVO and experience the evolution.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. It's time for the Wednesday Wheel of Whimsy. And we're ranking mascots in a fight.
Yes.
So, Steven.
We have a power ranking machine out.
Yes.
All right. You ready, Paul?
We're going to spin that wheel.
Tiger.
Tiger. You know, Tiger is a dangerous hunter. You know, a lot of them, you know, they're orange and black, so they should be seen really well, but they're very stealthy.
I didn't know that. They are? They're stealthy?
A little stealthy. They can hide in the grass a little bit. So, I mean, part of it is just like, all right, I'm going to wait for you to drink some water, and, you know, you're going to have your back turned to me because you're all thirsty, and then
Here I come.
Here I come. So, just because it's more of like a brute strength thing, and Garrett, I don't know how you feel about your Tigers, but I'm going to put them at 3. I'm going to put Tigers at 3.
That's fair.
Yeah. I'm going to put Tigers at 3.
What's the best team with Tiger as a mascot? LSU's up there.
Oh, it's got to be LSU.
It's LSU.
That's my bias. LSU all day.
Because here's the thing. Auburn is also the Tigers, but they have an eagle as their live animal
war eagle.
mascot.
What's that about? What's the story there? Somebody tell us in the chat.
It's something with the Civil War.
Yeah.
'Cause it goes back to
I'm
their,
sure that's good. I'm sure that's not
No,
problematic.
but it goes back to like their rivalry with Georgia and all that.
Yeah.
There's something
Okay.
to it.
Yeah. So I still don't like. Somebody needs to explain to me why they're not just the War Eagles, because that to me is a
It makes
unique and
sense.
awesome name, and you know, like
Tiger is
already LSU, and they have a tiger. I don't know. It just and Auburn's tiger is like
Weak.
you know, furry. It's just
kind of like the Frosted Flakes guy.
Yeah, exactly. Tony the Tiger. Yeah. So, by the way, played brilliantly by Hugh Grant in the Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, I didn't watch that.
Pop-Tarts movie. Oh, you got to watch it. You'll
good?
love it. It's great. Here's the thing. Is it Citizen Kane? No. Is it trying to be Citizen Kane? Absolutely not. So if you didn't like it, you're one of those people who expects every movie to be Saving Private Ryan.
Hugh Grant kind of having a renaissance here. He's in some new A24 horror movie that looks pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Heretic.
Yeah. Hugh's got pitches we haven't seen.
He's got range, yeah.
Yeah, he's got range. All right, spin that wheel, Steven.
Pistol Pete.
Pistol Pete. Look, there's nothing scary about Pistol Pete. Like he's more like leers and like does this.
Kind of cartoonish and fun.
Yeah. No, like I want Pistol Pete at my birthday, right? Like
Yeah,
you know,
that's a
like
good
that's
call.
what I want. Like there's nothing scary about him.
You want to go to Pistol Pete's Pizza Shop,
Yeah, I do.
play some games.
Yeah, I don't.
Drink some soda, eat some pizza.
I'm not worried about him. You know, I'm not worried about him. He's 10th.
Until he gets drunk with his gun.
Yeah, but like even still, I feel like those aren't real guns.
You don't think he's actually packing?
No, I think he's too nice for that.
What's the I mean, I guess I know the answer to this, but what's with all the gun celebrations this last week in college football?
I don't know. I mean, they should know that like that's a point of emphasis that's just not going to go over well.
Right.
I am of look. Here's the thing. It's obviously liberal soy boy beta cuck referees that don't want me to have my imaginary gun.
Don't want me brandishing a weapon on the field. Yeah.
They don't they're taking away my Second Amendment right for
That's
imaginary guns. So no, I just don't like that's just something that's not going to go over well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I think that somebody's going to go out and buy a gun because of a football celebration? No,
Should
absolutely
be
not.
flagged, probably not, but also don't do it.
Yeah, just don't do it. Like you should know that like there's going to be clutch pearls over that no matter what. So I'm pretty sure they were out ahead of that one. So
The cool thing about Pistol Pete to me is they, through the years, have put him in a lot of different sports scenarios.
Yeah.
Like the logo.
Yeah.
So there's like a cartoon logo of him with a singlet on for the wrestling team, which is cool. I think there's one with him of the bass fishing team that's pretty cool because
Yeah.
he's like holding a fish. But in a fight, I don't know.
yeah, like he is maybe a little bit like Rowdy, the Cowboys mascot. Like Rowdy's like a young version. Like Pistol Pete's seen some things. Like if you told me that Pistol Pete went to a whorehouse back in the 1880s and like you told me Pistol Pete did that, I'd believe you. But do I think Pistol Pete's like any kind of dangerous cowboy? No, I don't. I think he's more Little House on the Prairie than Gunsmoke.
All right, so our last spot's already been taken. Bears.
Ooh, Bears. I'm gonna put Bears. At 4. And here's what like the thing is like Bears will like they're fierce and they'll tear you up, but also they will ride a unicycle. So
They contain multitudes.
Yeah.
Depends on what type of mood they're in.
yeah, so I feel like you could trick a bear maybe easier than you trick like a tiger or something else. So you can distract them. Or like a tiger gets singularly focused on like, hey, I really want like to kill that guy. A bear would be like, I really want to kill that guy, but there's definitely meat in that cooler. So like, I'll let him get away.
I got other stuff I'm doing, yeah.
I'll let him get away. I just want him to know that like when you come into the bear's house, you're gonna feed the bear one way or the other.
This list was inspired by, on Twitter today, Garrett shared a photo of, it was an old black and white photo, not sure what year it was, but they
From
just
the
had,
Sickos Committee.
yes, Sickos Committee, I'm sorry, originally shared it, but they just had Baylor just had the Bears out there during practice.
Yeah.
Like one of them was just running around.
Yeah. Again, why I put them a little bit lower because you can
You can get them docile. I mean, back in the day, they used to just run around hyped up on Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's probably what was going on there. And
23 flavors just controlled.
Garrett had a great comment on it.
He did.
It said, how do you think this Baylor practice going? And he's like, well, better than the ones right now. So
Dave should throw some Bears out there this week.
yeah. Look, they're on bye.
Yeah.
Like this is where you bring the Bears out to practice.
Survival of the fittest, man.
Yeah. What did like in semi-pro?
Yes. Exactly like that.
Yeah. All right. Bears at 4.
Buffalo.
So, like, are we talking one buffalo or a herd of buffalo?
I mean, it's got to be singular, right? Because everybody else is singular. Is that fair to say, Garrett?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm trying to because what North Dakota State's what the Bison? I guess that'd be singular too. I don't know.
We'll go with one.
Go singular.
One buffalo?
One buffalo.
Well, let's put them at 9th. They're very useful animals. You can use every part of the buffalo. But like one buffalo alone, I feel like I can avoid. Now, if it's a herd of buffalo.
I'll get after you.
Yeah, exactly.
One misstep I made here. I should have put hogs on here
Ooh, yeah.
because wild hogs will get after you. Apparently.
Yeah.
They're mean.
Yeah. Well, next time.
Oh well, next time.
Yeah.
Eagle.
All right. Eagle is going to be at 8th. No. Let's put Eagle at 7. Eagles are like fantastic hunters. They're cunning. They're lethal, but also like really can only get like one thing at a time. So,
I mean, its best attribute is it could fly away, which isn't really winning a fight.
Yeah.
It's just eject. It's just kind of eject.
Like here's the deal about an eagle. Like it can see the fish in the water and then can just swoop down and grab the fish.
I guess in theory
Stealthy.
it could like poke out. It could like
Eyes?
scratch
Yeah.
up some eyes and then just fly away
Yeah.
and be like, I won.
Yeah, it could do that. But again, there's also like, say it flies down and you've got one really like, like tiger that's on its P's and Q's and it just snatches it out of the air.
That's true. Yeah.
Then it's kind of screwed.
Well,
Then the tiger's got a taste for eagle blood and nothing else tastes the same.
and that's not very practical.
No. Yeah.
That's tough, especially because they're endangered. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Mountaineer.
Human being, most dangerous game.
8's available, Paul.
8. We're gonna put him at 8th. He's got a musket. Okay. We're not arming this guy with the best thing available. Now, I'll give him an 8th because he's crafty. He can do some things, but like if he's just got a musket, he comes up upon a bear. Like he's got one shot really to get it.
But did he set traps along the way?
He could set traps along the way, but say the bear avoids the traps. You know.
I think the only way I would give him more of an advantage, a Mountaineer after an upset in Morgantown with some moonshine assistance.
Yeah.
I feel like that's maybe up to 6.
Yeah, I'm still gonna keep him at 8 though. Like,
Okay.
If he had he's got a musket, I'm gonna assume he's got some sort of tomahawk or, or big knife. But even still, he's got to be at close range to really do any damage.
Okay, we got 1, 2, 5, and 6 left.
Okay.
Bronco.
We'll put him at 6. Like a bronco, like you got to tame a horse. Like, have you ever seen a horse just go nuts?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
I mean, Garrett's from Oglesby, so he now
I've been drugged by a horse. It's not fun.
yeah. See, they're fast. Like again, they're not going to eat you or anything, but they'll stomp the crap out of you.
Right.
They'll kick you. Christopher Reeve was just doing dressage, and got paralyzed. So.
Were you on the horse and you fell off and got dragged?
I was holding its rope, and it took off. It was not pleasant.
Why didn't you let go?
I did eventually. I was so shocked by what happened, and I did not. It hurt a little, yeah.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah. See. Yeah, but a bronco, I'd say there's speed, power. Yeah. No, I mean they're not going to beat a bear, but
Sure.
they might put a hurting on a bear.
Yeah, they could.
No.
They could wear out somebody.
I mean, maybe Pistol Pete or a Mountaineer could tame the bronco,
That's
but
true.
also they could also sustain serious injury. So that's why I've got to put him at 6.
There you go. Big Al, elephant.
Oh, well, that's going to be number 1. I mean, look, just charging through one big angry elephant. Number 1, elephant, right there. Now, I wish that they could, like on South Park, figure out a way to make elephants really little, so you could have a house elephant. But
Elephants are really smart, right?
very smart, very very smart animals. Very smart animals, but you don't want to piss one off.
We got 2 and 5 available. So lion.
Okay,
Where's
lion is going to be number 2.
Lion's 2, and then wildcats left, which kind of falls in the same category as some other things we talked about.
Yeah,
but-
I like the lion's the king of the jungle, but lion v elephant, I'm still taking elephant because it could just stomp it, right? So lion's the king of the jungle. He goes number 2, and then wildcat
is it 5?
it's kind of like a mutt cat. I don't know what are you talking about here, but I still don't want to come up on one.
So our list: elephant at 1, lion at 2, tiger at 3, bears at 4, wildcat at 5, bronco at 6, eagle at 7, mountaineer at 8, buffalo at 9, pistol Pete at number 10.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think, like I said, Pistol Pete is like a rowdy who's had whiskey. Like, Rowdy is a white wine drinking cowboy. Like, he's smiling. He'll have a Chardonnay. He's got the cheerleaders with him. You know, like, that's Rowdy, the Cowboys mascot. Pistol Pete, like, he's actually, you know, he's been on the back of a horse. Like, he's done some things. He's just a nice guy cowboy. Like, he's, you know, he's a little grizzled, but he's not swole up or anything. For example, I would be more afraid of the Red Raider than I would be of Pistol Pete.
Just because the Red Raider's kind of wild card.
Yeah, he's wearing a mask. He doesn't want you to know who he is.
That's true.
He's got kind of a Zorro vibe to him. Zorro was a badass.
Were
Zorro kicked a lot of Pistol Pete's. Like, I saw the show. Like, a lot of Pistol Pete type guys got their ass kicked by Zorro.
Yeah.
So,
Were there mascots that I missed egregiously?
The gator would be interesting.
Gator's a good one.
Hogs, like you said.
Here's the thing. Like, gators are very scary, but like they're really easy to get away from. So they wouldn't be as high on the list as you would think, because, you know, the only way you get bitten by a gator, honestly, is if you do something really dumb. Like, the stories of people getting bitten by alligators. Like, the end of the story is I got bit by an alligator. The beginning of the story is I did a dumb thing first.
And then
Because
and then life caught up with me.
as someone who grew up with alligators all over the place, like, I never once, like, occasionally I was, like, kind of close to one. I was like, oh, crap, you know, on a golf course or something like that. You know, hooked a baby one time while I was fishing. That was really interesting. I was early on in my Florida residency, and by the way, God bless the people of Florida today. My home, Fort Myers is going to get it really bad. Tampa, where I live, is going to get it really bad. Sarasota, Bradenton, all that. Spent a lot of time out there. But if you grow up in Florida, you know, like, anybody who does, like, get attacked by an alligator did something dumb first. So they're not like, you get attacked by a tiger, you could just be in the realm of the tiger and not know he's there.
Sure.
But if you get attacked by an alligator, like, they're not like,
You had something coming.
you had like, you did something.
I thought about including the Western Kentucky mascot in there just because.
The Hilltopper?
Yeah, I don't know what he's about. I don't know if he's got powers or something.
Yeah.
Red looking grimace thing. Trojan? That's a good one.
Yeah.
I see the UTSA Roadrunner over there.
The Trojans also, like, here's the thing about the Trojans. Yes, scary, but clearly easily fooled. Historically, easily fooled.
Not the sharpest
Yeah.
crayons in the drawer.
Yeah. The Spartans, you know, like, yes, they're very brave, but they still, the 300, you know, I mean, you watch that movie, they still kind of lost.
They did.
Like, it wasn't a happy ending. So,
There you go. That's our mascot. That's our mascot battle bracket, Paul.
yeah. Katie Rader, by the way, said, seconded guns up on my, I'm
Red
more
Raider,
afraid
yeah.
of the Red Raider than I would be a Pistol Pete. So, Cyclones wipe out everything. Yeah, that's
true.
That is true. Yeah.
But I mean, what direction are they going? Do we know?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that could add to the intrigue, but
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, no, there's there's lots of mascots that aren't that scary, you know. Sometimes they're just good at what they do. Yeah. I don't know, like a Sun Devil, a Blue Devil, I don't know, like Mike Leach said, I don't know what kind of magical powers they possess.
it's true.
Like, what are we talking about here?
Demon Deacon, what do they do?
A Billiken?
Billiken.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anteater.
Yeah. Anteater, not scary at all. Yeah, like Blue Devils. Like, yeah, I mean, like, those things, I don't know. But
Rainbow Warriors.
yeah. Actually, you know what, I'll tell you. Having spent a lot of time in Hawaii, Hawaiians are the most resourceful people in the world. So any of the Polynesian people, like, if there was a place that like would do just fine without technology, like it was Hawaii. Like they're the picture of they didn't need any of us at all. Like they didn't. We brought them nothing that they didn't already like need. Like they figured it out. Like fascinating story about the Minahuni people. The Minahunis were a tribe, and they figured out how to like have like fisheries where they would just like, so the fish would get big enough to catch. And so they would just built these things out of like, trees and put them in the water that were like cages, and the fish could swim in. But if they could, like once they couldn't swim out, then that's the fish that they kept. Wild stuff.
Yeah, if the grocery store shut down in my neighborhood, we'd be in trouble.
Exactly.
So
that's
pretty amazing.
Kim Coulter should know this because he goes to Hawaii a lot. But they are like literally like the most, like the history of Hawaii is fascinating. All the Polynesian islands, fascinating. They did not need us. They didn't need anybody to come in at all. And most places really didn't. But like the Hawaiians in particular, like they were doing great.
Yeah, we just raised the price of their goods.
They did fight amongst each other, like, Samoans and all, like they fought. But, if you're going to say like, hey, we're going to go like get in a canoe and like row over this island and have a fight, like to me, you're kind of badass.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. So.
Yeah. I would take a rainbow warrior over a mountaineer, over like any of the human warriors at all. Like I would take them. Most resourceful, ridiculously, like they just knew how to like, they would live off the land and all that stuff. Like if they scattered, they'd find a way to get back to each other, and then they'd have like more weapons that they just made. Yeah, no, definitely. Just crazy. Paxton says the Stanford tree, not at all scary.
What does it do? I mean, it's just a tree, right?
Just there, yeah.
Just standing there.
Yeah, just gawking at you. Yeah. All right, that's good for us. We have Barry Switzer. Smokey smoked a Barry Switzer earlier today. We also have Joshua Quiston and Rod Babers talking Texas and OU. And I'm leaving somebody very important out, and I don't want to do that. Devin Gardner joins the show today as well from Fox Sports. So that's what's going on in the main show. We'll see you now, everybody. Love you, Steven.
Thanks, Paul.